Teach me about country music, because I always thought it was like a Southern American thing, but like we obviously have country music stars from all over the world. Canada has a huge country music scene. So like, teach me, is it American? Is it Canadian? Is it of the world?
I mean, country music essentially started as almost like a fusion genre. And they always say that the first family of country music was the Carter family, which, as we know, is like June Carter, who ended up marrying Johnny Cash. It was Mother Maybelle was her either mother or grandmother. I really should know this a little bit better, but they were sort of like the founding family of country music. So there were roots in genres like bluegrass and gospel and blues and Celtic music and like Appalachia kind of folk songs. Mm-hmm. All of those things sort of fused together to kind of, country music was always a genre that blended different things. And as it, took a foothold as its own genre, there became things that we thought of as like quintessentially country, things like fiddles and banjo and steel guitar and like certain feels like waltzes and shuffles and different types of feels that we recognize in country music. And then, lyrical topics, country music became the genre of storytelling and of, songs that were about heartfelt things or true stories or family or, topics. And then, so the roots of the genre are actually like pretty diverse sort of grassroots things coming together as a fusion genre. And that would be traditional country music. And then of course it grew, right? So this, the 70s were a golden era of country music. 80s went a little bit like disco pop country. That was a little interesting. And then we all herald the 90s as like an absolute golden era of country music. Early 2000s, you've got like your Dixie Chicks, 90s, you've got your George Straits and your Reba McEntires, and then you've got your super old school country stars like your Kitty Wells, your Patsy Cline, your Johnny Cash, your Merle Haggard, George Jones. And those are people that really built the foundation of the genre that we think of. Like we have bending like hooks and licks that were just so quintessentially George Jones that many people modeled. And, we have songwriting like Dolly Parton. And we have, Patsy Cline singing those old shuffles and elements of even Western swing coming in there. And, as we went, the 90s were like, they actually thought it was pop country at the time. But now we think it was like the 90s were the best. And in the 90s, we had female stars, we had songs of like meaning. Early 2000s were great. You got your Dixie Chicks. And then around 2007, I don't even want to talk about it. But now this is my personal opinion. All of a sudden we got bro country and like pop country, which hurts my heart dramatically. So I'm a traditionalist. I'm a purist. And so we're sort of still coming out of the bro country. Now we're into the pop country as the mainstream of the genre.
Right.
There was definitively an era where we can all agree that the lyrical content and originality on country radio were at an all-time low. I think we're turning the curve on it. And so now I think in country music, people that are actually really country, we're almost like country music refugees, where they call us like roots country or alternative country or Americana, because mainstream country is sort of defined by country radio, which is, your pop country.
Right.
But yeah, so it's been an interesting era. And the one thing that we know to be true about country music is that it's very cyclical. So it always, like, as I mentioned earlier, the 80s kind of almost took like this pop disco trend. And then out comes Randy Travis with On the Other Hand. And it springboards sort of the circle turn of the 90s and that golden era. So I think we're really due for the turn of the next golden era. I keep hoping, so I'm holding on to that. But I really think too, what sets country music apart is it is about songwriting. It is about storytelling. And I do think that it's about a lot of people, or the ones that stand out, your Willie Nelsons, your Merle Haggards, your Chris Christophersons, those were all outlaws at the time. They were not embraced by the mainstream. Now we herald them as like heroes and like founders of the genre, but they were all on the outlaw side of it at the point that they were coming up as well. So I think that a lot of people that have made a good impact on the genre have always kind of been the outliers and the trailblazers. So I think that we're sort of in that era now where we're going to come into a really great next chapter, or at least I hope. This is what I tell myself every day, to continue to get out of bed and make non-mainstream music.